When you're young, or just getting started, you think speed is everything, you rush, you sprint, you try to get somewhere fast, but somewhere along the way, if you're paying attention, you realize the truth. Some of the most powerful things in life take time. Not days, not weeks, sometimes years. And if you're not patient, you'll quit right before the magic happens. You see, the world around you is obsessed with instant results. Click, swipe, post. Like everyone wants to show what they've achieved, but no one talks about the space in between. The quiet part, the part where nothing seems to be working, where no one's clapping for you, where you're building, failing, learning, and repeating, that's the part where patience is forged. Patience isn't passive, it's focused persistence. That's where people often get it wrong. They think patience is waiting around, doing nothing, hoping something eventually happens. But the truth is, real patience is active. It's deliberate. It's being completely locked in on what you're building, even when there's no reward in sight. It's knowing exactly what you want and choosing not to chase distractions, even when they're loud, shiny, and instantly gratifying. There's a kind of fire in that kind of patience, a calm fire, the kind that doesn't flare up and burn out, but the kind that burns steady, day after day, because it's fueled by vision, not validation. Most people quit because they confuse discomfort with failure. They assume that if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't happen quickly, it must mean they're on the wrong path. But in reality, discomfort is often the strongest indicator that you're in the right place, that you're growing, stretching, reaching just beyond where you're comfortable. Focused persistence means pushing through that space without losing sight of why you started in the first place. It's not about being naive, it's about being committed. It's about understanding that the hardest part of building anything meaningful isn't the beginning, where it's all excitement and ideas, and it's not the end, where you finally see results. The hardest part is the long, quiet middle. The stretch of time where it feels like no one sees you, nothing is clicking, and progress is invisible. But that middle, that's where greatness is built. That's where patience becomes your most valuable asset. Because while everyone else is looking for shortcuts, jumping from idea to idea, chasing every new trend, you're staying focused. You're doing the work, not because someone's watching, not because it's glamorous, but because you believe in what you're building. You know that if it was easy, everyone would do it. You understand that long-term results don't come from short-term sprints. They come from the compound effect of showing up every single day, even when it's boring, even when it's frustrating, even when it feels like nothing's moving. Focused persistence is when you don't let the noise of the world interrupt your process. It's when you've got a dozen reasons to quit and you still choose to continue. It's when you take every delay, every rejection, every setback, and you use it as fuel, not as an excuse. It's when you move forward one step at a time with discipline, with care, and with the humility to know you're not owed anything just because you've worked hard. The work alone is the reward. And patience is what allows you to keep showing up for that work with the same energy, the same clarity, the same hunger. People talk about passion like it's everything, but passion fades. Passion is loud at the start, then it dies when things get hard. Persistence is quiet, but it endures, and when that persistence is tied to focus, real focus, the kind that can't be shaken by failure or praise, then you become unstoppable. You're no longer chasing success. You're becoming the kind of person success has no choice but to find. That doesn't happen overnight. That's built through months and years of staying with it, refining your craft, tuning out the noise, and trusting that the time you're investing isn't being wasted. It's compounding beneath the surface, in ways you can't always see. The quiet grind matters more than loud applause. That's something people don't realize until they've spent time chasing the noise, only to find that it fades as quickly as it came. Applause is seductive. It makes you feel like you've made it, like the work is done. But the real progress, the real transformation happens in silence, when no one's watching, when there's no recognition, when it's just you and the process. The quiet grind is where character is built. It's where you face yourself, your doubts, your fears, your distractions. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. But it's where the real work happens, the kind of work that lasts. There's something deeply powerful about waking up every day and doing the thing, even when there's no immediate reward, when no one is congratulating you, when the world doesn't even know what you're building yet. That takes something most people don't want to talk about: discipline. Not motivation, not inspiration, not energy that comes and goes, but the discipline to grind in the shadows, to put in the hours when it's easier to scroll, to distract, to tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. The ones who make it aren't the ones who get the most attention early. They're the ones who stay locked in long after the attention has moved on. In a world obsessed with performance, the grind feels old-fashioned. People want to be seen. They want validation, followers, views, metrics they can show off. But all of that is temporary if it's not rooted in something deeper. You can't fake the grind. You can fake confidence, you can fake enthusiasm, but you can't fake the quiet hours when you're alone and the only thing holding you there is your belief in what you're doing. That belief is tested in silence. It's tested when the applause goes away. It's tested when nothing external is pushing you forward and you still find a way to move. The quiet grind is what separates the ones who are playing for attention from the ones who are playing for legacy. It's not about proving something to anyone. It's about proving something to yourself, that you have the patience to build, the endurance to keep going, and the vision to see what others can't yet see. While others are rushing to post their wins, you're still deep in the lab, refining, adjusting, failing, improving. And that's why when your moment comes, it lands different. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's the result of 1,000 quiet hours that no one saw but changed everything. Every expert was once a beginner who chose to grind when no one was clapping. Every breakthrough was once a series of small, boring, unrecognized steps. The ones who succeed are the ones who stay present in that process. They don't need to be told they're on the right track. They know it. They can feel it in the small wins, the subtle progress, the way things slowly start to align. And if nothing seems to be happening, they don't panic. They keep going, because they know that growth isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes the biggest changes are happening underground, in the mindset, in the habits, in the discipline being shaped by repetition. If you spend your life chasing noise, you'll always be waiting for the next round of applause. But if you fall in love with the quiet grind, if you start to crave that space where it's just you and the work, then something shifts. You stop needing permission. You stop looking around to see who's watching. You just work. You work because that's who you are. And when the world finally does notice, you won't be surprised because you've already been there in the dark, building it the whole time. Mastery can't be rushed. It demands time. In a culture that worships speed, that rewards overnight success and fast wins, this idea feels almost foreign. But if you study anything truly great, whether it's art, engineering, design, music, leadership, you'll see a pattern. It didn't happen in a flash. It wasn't the result of one lucky break or one good idea. It came from years of refinement, from hours of unseen effort, from an obsession with details that most people overlook. Mastery isn't born in the spotlight. It's earned in the shadows. Time has a way of exposing what's real. It strips away the gimmicks, the hype, the shortcuts. You can fake skill for a moment, but time reveals whether the foundation is solid. And the truth is, there's no substitute for the slow accumulation of wisdom and experience. Every mistake, every frustration, every obstacle is part of the process. You can't fast forward through the learning curve. You can't trick time into giving you the results without the struggle. The people who try to cut corners might get ahead for a moment, but they eventually collapse under the weight of what they haven't earned. There's a kind of quiet power in accepting that you're not there yet, that you're still learning, that what you're creating is still in development. Most people run from that space because it's uncomfortable. It requires humility, it requires patience, but that space, that middle ground where you're not a beginner anymore, but not yet excellent, is where mastery is born. It's where you put in the hours that don't show immediate return. It's where you practice even when no one's asking you to. It's where you choose to go deeper rather than wider. Most of the noise out there is built for attention, not depth. But attention fades, depth endures. And depth only comes with time. It comes when you spend days, weeks, months focused on one problem, one craft, one path. When you're not switching lanes every time something gets hard. When you decide that repetition isn't boring, it's essential. Because every time you go through the same process again, you're not repeating. You're refining. You're improving something invisible that eventually becomes unmissable. Time gives you perspective. It shows you the patterns you missed when you were rushing. It reveals the difference between what feels urgent and what's actually important. Mastery isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing what matters. And that clarity only comes when you've stuck with something long enough to see it from every angle. The longer you stay in the game, the more you start to see beyond the surface. You stop reacting and start anticipating. You stop improvising and start creating with intention. The reason mastery is rare is because it's not glamorous. It doesn't look impressive when you're in the middle of it. No one's clapping for your fifth failed version. No one's cheering when you go back to fix something that 99% of people wouldn't notice. But that's the difference between average and exceptional. The willingness to care about details most people ignore. The patience to build something the right way, even when the fast way is easier. The discipline to say no to shortcuts and yes to depth every single time. There's no hack for this, no viral trick. Just the decision to show up, to do the work, and to keep going. Over time, the hours compound, the effort multiplies, the discipline becomes instinct, and without even realizing it, you cross the line where what once felt impossible becomes second nature. That's not luck. That's not talent alone. That's the result of time used wisely, of energy directed with purpose, of patience stretched across years in pursuit of something that actually matters. Progress is built in silence, not in the spotlight. That's the part no one wants to hear. It doesn't look good on camera. It doesn't trend. It doesn't grab attention. But if you look closely at anyone who has built something meaningful, whether it's a company, a product, a vision, you'll see the same pattern. Long stretches of quiet work. Days, weeks, even years where the only thing that kept it alive was belief and persistence. Not headlines, not validation, just the simple act of showing up and making progress that no one else could see. There's a certain kind of power in doing the work without broadcasting it, when it's not about proving something to the world, but about proving something to yourself. That's where real growth lives. In silence, away from the pressure to perform, you get to focus. You get to make mistakes without fear. You get to build with depth, not for decoration. The spotlight is loud and distracting. It pulls you into performance mode, but progress doesn't care about performance. It cares about clarity, repetition, refinement, and those things take time. They take space. They take the kind of attention that can't exist when you're constantly looking over your shoulder to see who's watching. Silence doesn't mean inactivity. It means concentration. It means doing the small things over and over until they start to add up. It means writing when no one's reading, practicing when no one's clapping, building when no one's noticing. And if you can fall in love with that silence, if you can learn to trust it, you become dangerous, because now you're no longer chasing moments of recognition. You're focused entirely on the craft, the process, the progress itself. That's what separates the ones who last from the ones who fade. The spotlight brings temporary attention, but the silence builds permanent foundation. People love to celebrate the final product, but they rarely understand the months of iteration, the countless discarded drafts, the long nights and early mornings that led there. The applause comes in seconds. The progress comes in seasons. If you can resist the need to constantly be seen, if you can keep working when no one's watching, then the work itself becomes the reward. And eventually, it speaks louder than anything you could say about it. Progress in silence teaches you patience. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you to rely on yourself, not external noise. And somewhere along the way, it also teaches you how to trust your own pace. Everyone wants to be first. Everyone wants to go fast, but building something that lasts means being willing to go deep. It means saying no to shortcuts and yes to uncomfortable, slow, deliberate improvement. It means giving yourself the grace to grow without having to put it on display for the world. You learn more in silence. You see what's working and what's not. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You notice the patterns you missed when you were moving too fast, and in that space, the work begins to change. You begin to change, not in ways the world can immediately measure, but in ways that prepare you for what's coming. The silence becomes a kind of training ground, a place where you sharpen your skills, refine your instincts, and figure out what actually matters. Progress is invisible until it isn't. One day, what you've been building in the dark finally steps into the light. And when that day comes, it's not a surprise, not to you, because you've already done the work. You've already lived through the hard parts. You've already endured the silence, not just once, but over and over, until it became part of your rhythm. Part of your mindset, part of who you are. Endurance outlasts talent when vision stays clear. Talent is what gets noticed first. It's what people compliment you for, what they assume will carry you to success. But talent without endurance fades. It burns out under pressure, folds when things don't go according to plan, disappears when the path isn't straight. Endurance, on the other hand, is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just keeps going. It keeps showing up after others have stopped. And that's what separates people in the long run. Not how much talent they started with, but how long they were willing to hold on. Endurance is what steps in when motivation runs out. It's the part of you that doesn't care if it's hard or boring or messy. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It just moves forward, one decision, one action, one step at a time. Even when it's slow, even when no one's watching, even when everything around you suggests it would be easier to stop, because when your vision is clear, when you know why you started, you don't need to be convinced to keep going. You already made that decision a long time ago. The mistake most people make is thinking success is about speed. But the truth is, it's about stamina. It's about how long you can stay in the game, how long you can keep believing in the vision you had, even when nothing looks like it's working. When the initial energy fades, when the hype dies down, when the audience moves on, that's where endurance begins. That's where you discover whether your vision was real or just a trend, whether it was built on conviction or convenience. Talent might win the sprint, but endurance wins the marathon when the goal is to build something meaningful, something lasting, something that can stand on its own without applause or permission. You have to prepare for resistance. It will come from everywhere: delays, failures, rejection, doubt. And when it does, talent alone won't save you. What saves you is the refusal to quit, the ability to keep going without needing to be rescued, the mental toughness to continue even when the pace feels unbearably slow. That's the part no one glamorizes. That's the part people skip over in interviews, in highlight reels, in stories of sudden success. But it's the most important part. Endurance doesn't mean you're never tired. It doesn't mean you never feel like giving up. It means you feel all of it and move anyway. It means you look at the setbacks, the rejections, the long nights, and you still choose to trust the process. Because your vision isn't based on how you feel today. It's based on something deeper, something unshakable, something that lives beyond the ups and downs of emotion and approval. When that vision stays clear, it becomes the compass. It tells you where to go even when the path is uncertain. People will always overestimate what talent can do in the short term and underestimate what endurance can create over time. But time is the ultimate equalizer. And what you build in the long run is not determined by how brilliant you were on day one. It's determined by how often you were willing to get back up, to adjust, to keep building, to stay focused. That's where the real breakthroughs happen. Not in moments of inspiration, but in seasons of persistence. It's easy to start. It's easy to plan. It's easy to imagine what the end looks like. But the middle is what tests you. The part where the work is hard, where progress is slow, where doubts creep in, that's where most people stop. But those who don't, those who endure are the ones who eventually change the game, not because they were the most gifted, but because they were the most committed, because they had a vision and they refused to let go of it no matter how long it took. Patience shapes not just the outcome, but the person. People usually chase results. They set goals, chase numbers, track metrics, and expect progress to unfold in a linear way. But growth doesn't move in straight lines. It happens in layers, in setbacks, in plateaus that stretch out longer than expected. That's where most people break. Not because they lacked the ability to succeed, but because they didn't allow time to do its work on them. They focused only on the destination, not on the transformation happening along the way. Real patience isn't just about waiting. It's about who you become while you wait. Every delay, every detour, every failure is shaping something inside you. Your discipline, your humility, your endurance. When things don't go as planned, when nothing moves as fast as you want, patience teaches you to let go of control and lean into the process. It teaches you to stop measuring everything by the clock and start measuring it by what you're building internally. You begin to notice that even when things aren't happening on the surface, something is changing beneath it. You start learning how to stay calm in uncertainty, how to focus when distractions are everywhere, how to keep believing when you're surrounded by doubt. That shift where you stop expecting instant returns and start trusting the long game is where maturity begins. You realize that the delays aren't punishments, they're preparation. They're refining your mindset, sharpening your instincts, clearing out what doesn't serve you. The slow seasons are where your foundation is built, and if the foundation is weak, nothing you build on top of it will last. There's a reason why quick success often collapses. It skips the inner work, it skips the character development, it gives people results they haven't grown into yet. But when success takes time, when it forces you to develop patience, you grow into someone who can actually handle what comes with it. You become grounded, you become steady, you stop chasing approval and start chasing depth. You stop rushing to the finish line and start appreciating the path you're walking. That's the thing about patience. It doesn't just build things, it builds people. It turns ambition into wisdom. It turns pressure into precision. It slows you down just enough to see what actually matters. In that slowness, your decisions get better. Your clarity sharpens. You stop reacting and start creating from intention. You stop letting fear dictate your pace. Instead of panicking when things don't go according to plan, you adapt. You trust that every setback has a role, even if you don't understand it. Yet patience gives you the ability to hold a vision even when no one else sees it. When people doubt you, when progress is invisible, when the world tells you to move faster, and you choose to stay steady instead, that strength is rare, but it's built in the moments when you could have rushed but didn't, when you could have compromised but chose not to, when you could have given up but decided to keep going, not because it was easy, but because you were becoming someone stronger in the process. Eventually, the outside starts to match what's been happening inside. The results show up, the breakthroughs arrive, but by that point, you've already changed. You're no longer desperate for the outcome, because the process itself has become valuable. You've become someone who's not just skilled, but stable. Not just creative, but consistent. That kind of person doesn't just succeed, they sustain. They navigate the highs without getting lost in them, and survive the lows without getting broken by them. They know that everything worthwhile takes time, and they're willing to give it that time, because they understand the cost of rushing something that isn't ready yet.